Well, it just got a whole lot brighter in this studio. My goodness, we are absolutely thrilled to welcome in Manchester City legend Shaun Wright-Phillips, who brought some friends with him to Stamford, Connecticut.
Quite a lot of it.
Quite a lot of friends. How are you, sir? Thank you so much for coming.
I'm good, man. Thank you for having me, everyone.
This is a thrill. Okay, so Man City ambassador, it has to be a pretty good time to be representing this club because all they seem to do is win hardware these days.
Yeah,
What's that been like?
I don't know. It's always been a good time doing anything representing the club, but of course, when they're bringing things like this around, all the trophies and the friends, and being able to give back to a lot of the fans that can't actually get to the stadiums as well, which is the most important part. So it's always been good, and this just makes it even better.
It wasn't like that when you were growing up with City, right? It wasn't.
Trust me, I know. It was like a roller coaster, wasn't it? We had good moments, but we also had a lot of down moments. But the fans have always been the same. If anything, back then they was most probably a lot louder.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Impressive.
Wow.
How close do they let you get to those guys? Do you get to?
I'm allowed to touch them.
You can touch them.
Yeah.
That's pretty dope.
But like we couldn't touch them. Just to be
The
clear.
Premier League one is the one.
That's the only
No, because
one.
they have basically a rule, you have to win it before you can't physically touch it. Otherwise.
Wow, makes sense.
Amazing.
How lucky do you feel being a Manchester City ambassador? Like, it could have worked out in a parallel universe. You're a Scunthorpe ambassador. There's not much fun having.
No disrespect to Scunthorpe.
Just the Scunthorpe, but.
I'm always wanted to stay in football, and I think after Phoenix Rising, I had one more operation, and while I was doing my rehab, a guy called Miles Garden reached out and Karen Proctor said, would you love to do some stuff for City? And I just jumped to the chance because when I left there the first time to go to Chelsea, I always said I would go back because that's where I wanted to eventually end my career. So to still be a part of the club is amazing.
Before we get into City and everything that you've done since you've left the game, I want to talk about your daughter because she's incredible. How often is she training? How has she been able to get to this level so far? Because it seems like she's going to be the next huge English star.
It's a hard one with her because you would think she's been playing football since she's 3, but she hasn't. She's only been the last 2.5 years at most. She teaches herself in the gardens. I remember I said to her, what do you want for your birthday? And she said, Dad, can I just have a ladder and some cones, please? And I was like, what for? And she just goes and does it herself. And she does her one-on-one training now. She's at Arsenal, which he will be happy about. So, yeah, she's really enjoying it and she's progressing really well.
Wow. Incredible.
Well, it is an absolute honor to have you here today. So on Tuesdays, we like to open up our Tuesday mailbag. And so with you being here, we asked some of our viewers if they had any Manchester City-related questions for us yesterday. Are you cool to answer some of the questions that we got?
Yeah, I'm good.
What a guy. All right, let's check out some of our questions, guys. What do we have here? First one. Oh, I like this. I mean, this is an obvious one, I feel like, and I feel like I know what you're going to say. Will Man City win Champions League this year?
I'm going to say yes, I believe they can, but I think from a realistic point of view, I think that would be disrespectful to a lot of the other good teams that are in the competition to just say they're going to win it outright. I think it's a hard competition, and sometimes it's luck of the draw. Like they won it last year, but I thought they took the harder route with the teams they came up against to get to the finals, and they still managed to do it. So although they need to always play well, you still need sometimes that hint of luck like you saw in the finals.
Who would you like to see them draw then in the next round?
Anybody that they can beat.
I don't think they can beat
everybody,
any. I was going to say they can literally beat anyone. But how much of a relief does it feel to like kind of get the monkey off the back of the Champions League? It's like the club finally won that elusive trophy. Does it free you up at all as a supporter of this club now that you've won it?
Yeah, it has to. I think because that was the only thing that was held against the club. For whatever reason, they was saying the club's not elite because they haven't won the Champions League. But not only did they win the Champions League, they also won the treble in the same year for the first time. So it put a lot of questions and queries to bed, and now everyone's talking. And they're just trying to find something else to basically talk about to dismantle the club. But the club's still going strong and fighting on all fronts.
How good does it feel to be the favourites?
It's amazing. It is actually amazing because normally it's never been heard. But to be fair, it's City. In the last 3 competitions, I would say in the Champions League, people have tipped them to win it, and they actually got there and didn't, and lost to Real Madrid, obviously, in that crazy game that happened. But the year that they won it, I think they did it the perfect way, because I went to Istanbul and just everything that they did, the way they had it set up, the families that were there, just felt right, and they won it on that trip.
How impressed are you with Pep Guardiola? As a former player, you've played under some big-time managers, Jose Mourinho. When you look at Pep Guardiola, is it just his plan that's changed the trajectory of this club? Like, how influential is he to Man City's success?
I would go as far as saying he's influenced the whole Premier League. I think what he's done, he's evolved the game of football to a totally different level, where in a lot of respects he's taken a lot of managers out of their comfort zone, and they're having to try to do the similar things. So if you look at Liverpool now, Trent plays that higher role, that hybrid right fullback role that Cancelo was doing. Pep's moved away from that. We use Akanji or Stones now that come from the centre-back to bulk up that midfield. So I think in terms of football, he's changed the whole game completely.
It feels like he's one step ahead of every manager. He makes tactical decisions, and then everybody adjusts to him.
I think he's good at solution solving, especially in game as well. I think he can see things that are happening that sometimes some players don't notice, and he can somehow correct it and make it work.
He does always seem to be like 2 steps ahead of everybody else. He just has that look in his eye, that Pep look. It's like he knows something that we don't know. I know. It's very unsettling as a Liverpool fan, but I won't say it. That's neither here nor there. All right, let's get to more mailbag questions. We have one from Rodrigo P. Mendez, who wants to know, who do you think is the most important player on the team this season?
Rodri.
I would have said the same thing.
Yeah, I think even last year, he was just key to their success. I think this year, obviously, when he got suspended, you could see that. I wouldn't say the players are not capable enough to play without him, because I think they are, because they're all fantastic. But I think the way City play in general, he makes them tick. Everything, the ball goes through him, the way he positions in transition as well, when this is the other way around. I just think he's a massive part to that puzzle.
Mm-hmm.
I'd say Ruben Dias is probably the second most important player on that team, just because defensively he's all over the place, so consistent, perfectly timed tackles. Without KDB, I thought there'd be a big drop-off, and it seems like Pep Guardiola has tinkered and managed to still keep the same level without one of the best midfielders in the world.
I think when you have Alvarez, who's won the World Cup, and anything's possible, do you know what I mean? He's slotted him in that number 10 role, and you look at it from you can go back to old school where they had that little and large combination, and that's almost what it is at City. You've got little Alvarez behind him who scores from outside the box as well as inside the box. And he also links up really well with Haaland, so that's kind of balanced it out. I would say in certain aspects of the game, you can still see we missed that Kevin De Bruyne touch in respects of the passes he plays into the box and the chances he creates. But in general, I think they're coping really well.
You mentioned the Argentine. Open the door. My family is Argentine. So let me tell you my story of how how
Strap in.
No, here we go. So when Tevez was my idol growing up, Boca fan, and then I followed him every step of the way throughout his career. And right when he goes to City, it's around the time of the takeover, a little bit afterwards, right? And you were on that team that was up and coming and was really changing the face of Manchester City. Talk to me a little bit about what that was like, especially maybe like, give me a Carlos Tevez anecdote. He didn't speak English from what I understand. Like, how did you communicate on the front line with somebody who didn't understand what you were talking about?
Football is universal language. I think if you have an understanding of football and an understanding of how that player wants to play, you don't actually need to speak the same language. As soon as you see him in space, pass him the ball, and vice versa, and that's just how we worked. And
what was he shouting? Do you know?
He's the only person that used to say my whole name in the dressing room. Like, he would never just call me Shawnee and say Shawnee, right. Like, just all the time. But we got on really well, and he's like, it was hard to train with him in respects of he always conserved all of his energy for the game. So sometimes if you're playing 7-a-sides and one person ain't running,
it's him.
It's a nightmare to defend against. But when you go into that games, he was almost like a light switch. It's like, okay, I'm ready to go now. And he would just do anything that the team needed. And he was a fantastic player to have.
I feel like for some managers that would drive them crazy, because you know, you hear managers that say, I need 100% every time. You got to train your best, train like you play.
Yeah.
And, you know, there's some players like, hey, you know how many games we play here? I'm chilling in training.
Yeah, there was a few players like that. But if you're producing on the
Right.
pitch, it kind of puts the rest to bed.
Nico's geeking out right now.
When I met Mike, that was the team that I remember. Like, I would obsess in FIFA on Manchester City because of Davis, and it opened the world to European soccer for me. Really, I was like 15,
No, it's very
14.
cool. Good man. It's a good man. All right, next question. There's obviously a lot to celebrate. Last season, winning the treble, but if you had to pick your favorite moment, Shaun, from last season, what would it be?
I would say one of the biggest moments I'd say for me was the game Arsenal Man City at the Etihad. I think that. Sorry, Alexis.
You saw when he got punked in the stands?
No,
I love that you said that.
He went, they scored, and he kind of was like, and the fan looked at him and goes, you Arsenal scum, is that what he said?
My mic is dead, so I can't.
Yeah, he grabbed him and like physically touched him, pushed him.
Yeah,
and he got
see?
scared.
So not winning Champions League, it was that match that was your favorite moment.
Yeah, but that's the thing. I think that moment there set the rest of it all up. I think it was kind of a knock-on effect. And after they beat them the second time, it was almost like no matter how well we don't play, we have the tools to win the game. And that happened all the way up. Every game they got to that was important. They just kept winning.
We were at that game, and I was like, Arsenal looked like boys in that match. Kyle Walker put Martinelli in his pocket, and he said, go ahead. You know you can't beat me.
And the same with Ake on the other side. Like
It was impressive. But now that this is kind of since he went back into time and was talking about Carlos Tevez, who was the best Manchester City player you've played with? Because I'm going down the list and I'm like, damn, you played with some top players.
I think I'm going to say either Yaya Toure or David Silva. I would say are my two. I thought Yaya was unbelievable. I remember playing against him before he came to City, and it was a pre-season friendly at the Nou Camp, and for whatever reason, Mark Hughes said I was playing midfield. And then I saw Yaya Toure, and I was like, damn. out of all days, did it have to be today? And then I just remember every time you try to get close to the ball where you think he's scanning, looking where to pass, he doesn't know where the ball is. By the time you take 2 steps there, the ball's gone.
Wow.
He was always that advanced. And then David Silva was just unbelievable. Me and Jolie and Lescott, when he first signed for City, going, interesting. Bearing in mind I'm small as well, I was like, he's a little bit little, isn't it? What's he going to do? And then in training, we looked at each other and said, okay,
He's got
Merlin. We called him. We nicknamed him Merlin.
Oh,
that's
that's
how
a
we got
good
the name,
nickname.
the Wizard, basically. Yeah.
I'm the Merlin of this desk, obviously.
Golden Boy.
Golden boy. Exactly. Do we have time for one more question?
Yeah,
From
one
Raul
more.
Beck? Okay, we do. Will Erling Haaland break Alan Shearer's Premier League goal scoring record?
I know Alan's going to hate me saying this, but if he keeps going at the rate he's going at, I can't see no other answer but yes to that one.